Hello, miladies of inestimable value. Some women walk through society like they're made of smoke, present, undeniable, but impossible to hold. That's the Sigma female in one sentence, the woman who can be in a room without ever truly being in the room. And here's the unsettling fact. Studies show that people remember unpredictable personalities 40% more vividly than predictable ones. Yet Sigma females are remembered for their absence just as much as their presence. How do you explain someone who can leave an impression even when she's barely participating? This is where the myth begins, and where the reality gets brutally fascinating. The Sigma female isn't trying to be mysterious. She isn't crafting some carefully curated loner aesthetic. She's just built differently, wired differently, and honestly, a little too mentally advanced to survive in the chaos of herd behavior without laughing or quietly slipping out the back door. She's the woman who can sit at a table with everyone else and somehow feel like the only one who isn't hypnotized by the noise. The one who sees the invisible cracks in people's masks while pretending to mind her business. The one people describe as cool, distant, intimidating, or everyone's favorite, hard to read, mainly because most folks can only read emojis at this point. But here's the twist. Sigma females don't feel like ghosts because they're weak, lonely, or lost. They feel like ghosts because they don't live where everyone else mentally lives. They drift outside the emotional crowds, the social expectations, the groupthink, the unspoken scripts. Not because they're running away from the world, but because the world simply runs at the wrong frequency for them. So today, we're pulling back the veil on the truth society never talks about. The truth that explains why Sigma females move through life like they have no home, no herd, and no earthly reason to follow the rules everyone else worships. Get ready. This is the brutal truth behind why Sigma females always feel like ghosts, and why that's exactly what makes them unforgettable. Number 1. She doesn't bond, she scans. A Sigma female doesn't enter a room to connect. She enters to observe. Her attention is always scanning, constantly measuring, calculating, and decoding the subtle currents running through the people around her. She notices the way someone shifts their weight when a topic comes up, how their tone rises or falters, the micro-expressions that flash for only a fraction of a second. To most people, these details go completely unnoticed, but for her they are data points, puzzle pieces, and occasionally warning signs. This scanning is not coldness, it's survival and clarity. While the crowd laughs at a joke or gets swept up in chatter, she's mentally mapping relationships, spotting insecurities, and predicting reactions. She doesn't need to participate, because the act of observing alone gives her more insight than most will ever get from years of social interaction. People feel her presence, but they can't quite place it because she doesn't behave like anyone else. She doesn't try to impress, mimic, or conform. She's not performing for the group, she's analyzing it. Her scanning also acts as a filter. She instinctively separates those worth her attention from those who are distractions. A Sigma female doesn't waste energy on small talk that has no value. Her loyalty and engagement are always calculated, always intentional, which often makes her appear aloof or untouchable. It's not arrogance, it's efficiency. She has limited bandwidth for emotional investment, and she spends it only on the people and ideas that actually matter. The consequence of this behavior is isolation. The crowd doesn't see her as part of the herd because she's never fully inside it. She moves through social spaces like a ghost, present, noticeable, and yet untethered. People might admire her, fear her, or misunderstand her completely, but she doesn't notice or care. Her observation is not for validation. It is her way of existing in a world that often rewards the loud and predictable. Her mind is always a step ahead, always analyzing, always scanning, and that constant vigilance is why she rarely truly belongs anywhere. She doesn't bond in the traditional sense because bonding requires surrendering control and perspective, and surrendering is something a Sigma female cannot afford. Her scanning is both her strength and her curse. It makes her brilliant, aware, and impossible to pin down, but it also ensures she will always feel like a ghost to the world around her. Number 2. Her mind lives in the unspoken world. A Sigma female doesn't just process what people say. She absorbs everything they don't. She notices the tiny gaps, the hesitations, the contradictions, the gestures that betray hidden feelings, and the silent power plays no one else sees. While most people are busy listening to words, she is reading layers beneath them, untangling the invisible threads of intention, insecurity, and desire. Her mind thrives in the unspoken world, a place where most people never even step. This constant awareness creates a strange kind of isolation. People around her operate on surface-level communication, assuming their words and gestures are transparent and sufficient. She knows better. She deciphers the motives behind smiles, the subtle fear in casual laughter, the tension hiding in pauses. She sees patterns forming before they're even acknowledged. It's like she's tuned into a frequency no one else can hear, a channel broadcasting truths most are blind to. Living in this unspoken world makes her feel like a ghost because it separates her from everyone else. People can't match her depth. They can't keep up with the constant analysis happening in her head. Her attention is pulled in multiple dimensions simultaneously, while theirs remains fixed on the obvious. Conversations that feel casual or meaningless to others are rich, layered, and revealing to her, but she rarely shares these insights because no one else truly grasps their significance. Sharing would be exhausting, and most importantly, unnecessary. Her perception of reality is sharper, faster, and more precise than those around her, which makes social interaction complicated. She doesn't conform, she doesn't fake, and she rarely lowers her mental guard. She is always aware, always calculating, always discerning. This clarity keeps her ahead, but it also keeps her alone. Her understanding of people goes beyond behavior. She interprets the forces shaping behavior, the fears, the ambitions, the unspoken rules, and in doing so, she creates an invisible wall between herself and the herd. The unspoken world is her domain, her power, and her burden. It is where she understands, predicts, and navigates life with precision that seems effortless. Yet this extraordinary mental acuity ensures she will never fully belong, because the truth she sees is too layered, too complex, and too unspoken for anyone else to truly share with her. Number 3. She understands people too well to rely on them. A Sigma female doesn't just notice people, she understands them in ways most never do. She sees beyond the stories they tell, the carefully crafted personas they present, and the masks they wear to fit in or impress. She picks up on patterns, inconsistencies, and hidden motives that most people aren't even aware of themselves. This insight isn't casual intuition. It's precise, relentless, and almost surgical. She knows who will bend under pressure, who will lie without conscience, and who will disappoint even before it happens. Because of this clarity, she doesn't trust blindly. But it isn't cynicism, it's realism. Most people rely on trust to build relationships, assuming loyalty and honesty will follow naturally. She sees how often that assumption fails. She watches as promises are broken, loyalties shift, and intentions are masked by charm or manipulation. She understands that people are fundamentally inconsistent, driven by impulses and fears they barely control themselves. To rely fully on anyone is to risk disappointment, and a Sigma female has learned to avoid unnecessary vulnerabilities. This understanding creates a kind of invisible distance. People feel it, even if they can't articulate it. She doesn't reject connection out of spite, but because she recognizes the fragility of human reliability. She knows that depending on someone is a calculated gamble, and she doesn't waste energy on bets she doesn't intend to win. This makes her seem detached, cold, or unreachable. But in reality, she's simply managing the reality of human unpredictability. Her awareness also gives her power. She can navigate social dynamics effortlessly because she anticipates outcomes before others even recognize the situation. She knows when to engage, when to withdraw, and when silence carries more weight than words. She doesn't manipulate for pleasure, but she isn't naive either. Her understanding of people allows her to move through life with clarity, efficiency, and control. Ultimately, her insight isolates her. She understands too much, sees too clearly, and therefore can't rely on anyone the way most people do. It's a double-edged gift. It makes her powerful, aware, and untouchable. But it also ensures that her emotional world remains her own. She exists in a space where human unpredictability is visible in high definition, and that clarity ensures she will always be a step removed from the herd. Number 4. She doesn't chase acceptance because she knows the price. A Sigma female doesn't seek approval, and she doesn't waste energy trying to fit in. It's not rebellion or stubbornness, it's calculation. She understands the true cost of acceptance, compromise, dilution of self, and surrendering mental clarity for social comfort. While others chase validation from peers, friends, or society, she quietly observes, knowing that the rewards rarely outweigh the price. The world offers belonging only at the cost of individuality, and she refuses to pay that toll. This refusal is not always visible. People might mistake her independence for arrogance or coldness, but it comes from experience and understanding. She has watched countless people bend, contort, and hide their true selves just to be liked, and she knows the toll it takes on their minds, their emotions, and their sense of identity. She doesn't want that. She doesn't need that. Belonging for its own sake has no value to her. Her standards for herself and others are absolute, not negotiable. To gain her attention or trust, someone must meet her level of clarity, honesty, and presence. That rarely happens. She understands that the majority of people operate on fear, ego, or shallow desires, and those qualities are incompatible with her worldview. Chasing acceptance from them would be pointless, exhausting, and self-eroding. This mindset creates a natural distance. People who expect her to conform or bend to social norms are often frustrated or intimidated because she simply won't. She doesn't participate in social games, political favors, or herd behavior. Her focus is on herself, her growth, and her principles, not on approval or applause. In a world obsessed with validation, this quality makes her appear untouchable. She is unshaken by gossip, trends, or collective pressure because she has already assessed the cost of conformity and decided it is too high. Her independence isn't a lack of care. It's a deep, strategic understanding of human nature and social systems. She lives by her own rules, and that makes her both dangerous and magnetic. Chasing acceptance is a trap she avoids entirely, and that refusal is a silent declaration. She belongs only to herself. Number 5. Her depth creates a natural boundary. Others can't cross. A Sigma female lives on a different plane of thought and emotion, and that depth is both her gift and her barrier. She experiences life in layers, intellectual, emotional, strategic, and even instinctual. Every decision, every interaction, every observation passes through multiple lenses simultaneously. Most people operate on 1 or 2 levels at best, reacting to immediate stimuli or superficial cues. She operates on all levels at once, analyzing, processing, and understanding far beyond what is visible or spoken. This multidimensional awareness makes her impossible to fully access. People may think they know her after casual interactions, but in reality they are only glimpsing fragments. The full scope of her mind, the quiet currents of her perception, and the subtle strategies she employs remain invisible. Her depth acts as a natural filter, allowing only those who can reach a similar level of awareness, integrity, or insight to approach her meaningfully. For everyone else, she remains distant, elusive, almost untouchable. Her emotional and intellectual intensity also enforces boundaries. She feels things more acutely, thinks more thoroughly, and evaluates situations with precision that others cannot match. This creates an invisible barrier. Her presence is magnetic, but crossing into her inner world is not simple. People who try to force connection or demand attention often encounter silence, subtle deflection, or a measured distance that leaves them frustrated or intrigued. She doesn't push people away deliberately. Her boundaries exist because her mind and emotions are too complex to be diluted by shallow interaction. This depth shapes her relationships, her work, and her life decisions. She invests only where she perceives meaning, value, and alignment. Anything superficial, manipulative, or chaotic is naturally excluded. It's not rejection, it's self-preservation and clarity. Ultimately, her depth is what makes her feel like a ghost to the world around her. Most people are incapable of matching her awareness, understanding, and complexity. So she moves through life almost untouchable, observed but not fully known. That invisible boundary keeps her safe, sharp, and rare, a presence that can be felt but never fully captured. Her depth is both the shield she carries and the signature that makes her unforgettable. Number 6, she blends in only, because she chooses silence. A Sigma female rarely feels the need to announce her presence, and when she does, it's deliberate, controlled, and impactful. Most people mistake blending in for invisibility, but for her, it is a choice. She can navigate a room, sit among people, and appear unassuming, all while quietly observing, analyzing, and understanding everything happening around her. Her silence is not weakness, it's a strategic shield that keeps her untouchable and unpredictable. She understands the power of withholding. Words, opinions, reactions. She measures each one before releasing them into the world. She doesn't speak to impress, to be liked, or to participate in the noise. Her voice carries weight only when necessary, and when it does, it commands attention because it's rare, precise, and undeniable. People sense this without fully understanding it, which creates both fascination and unease. Her presence is a paradox. She is there, but simultaneously not fully present in the way the herd expects. Her silence also serves as camouflage. By blending in, she avoids unnecessary conflicts, distractions, and energy drains. She doesn't need to be the center of attention, because attention without intention is meaningless to her. Instead, she uses quiet observation to navigate social dynamics, identify truth from pretense, and understand people on a level that most never reach. This ability makes her appear as a ghost in the room, visible only to those who are attuned enough to notice. When she does choose to speak, her words resonate because they break the monotony of ordinary conversation. There's a weight, a clarity, and an honesty that can't be ignored. People remember her statements long after the casual chatter has faded, and they often wonder why someone so calm, so silent, has such a profound impact. Her silence is not passive, it is intentional, powerful, and protective. It allows her to blend in while remaining untouchable, to observe while staying undetected, and to influence without forcing. Choosing silence is her way of controlling presence, preserving energy, and maintaining the invisible boundaries that keep her rare, enigmatic, and unforgettable. Number 7. Her loyalty is rare, almost mythical. A Sigma female doesn't hand out loyalty like it's a common commodity. She doesn't pledge trust or devotion lightly, and she doesn't invest herself in people or causes that fail to meet her exacting standards. Loyalty for her isn't about obligation, social expectation, or reciprocation. It's about recognition. When she gives it, it is deliberate, unwavering, and nearly impossible to earn. The rarity of her loyalty makes it almost mythical. Something people sense exists, but rarely witness in full. She doesn't form attachments on impulse. She observes, evaluates, and measures character over time, looking beyond words and appearances to see the truth of someone's integrity, consistency, and intentions. Only when she is fully certain that a person or cause aligns with her principles does she commit herself. And even then, her loyalty is quietly powerful rather than performative. It doesn't scream or demand acknowledgement. It simply exists, a steady undercurrent that others only notice when it's absent or when it protects them in ways they cannot see. Because she guards her loyalty so fiercely, most people misunderstand her. They mistake her caution for indifference, her independence for coldness, or her detachment for disinterest. They fail to see the careful calculation and depth of understanding behind every decision she makes. She is not hard to reach because she doesn't want connection. She is hard to reach because she refuses to compromise her standards for the convenience of social acceptance. Her loyalty, once given, becomes a quiet force. She defends, supports, and invests in ways that aren't always visible, but are profoundly impactful. Betrayal or disrespect, however, is equally unforgettable. Those who misuse or abuse her loyalty will quickly discover the consequences of underestimating her. She does not forgive lightly because her trust is a gift, not a guarantee. This almost mythical loyalty is both her strength and her filter. It protects her from unnecessary attachments, ensures her energy is reserved for what truly matters, and elevates her relationships to a level of depth and authenticity few ever experience. To be loyal to a Sigma female is to be recognized as rare, valued, and worthy of her extraordinary presence. It is a loyalty she gives only once, and when it exists, it changes everything quietly, powerfully, and permanently. Number 8. She doesn't fear loneliness, she weaponizes it. A Sigma female doesn't view loneliness as a weakness or a punishment. She sees it as a tool, a weapon, and a source of power. While most people panic when left alone, scrambling for approval, company, or distraction, she embraces it, knowing that isolation sharpens her mind, hones her intuition, and strengthens her emotional core. Loneliness isn't something to escape from, it's something to harness. She uses it to think clearly, reflect deeply, and strategize without interference. Being alone allows her to move through life with unmatched clarity. She doesn't have to negotiate her energy, opinions, or actions to satisfy others. She doesn't bend to social pressure, manipulate for attention, or compromise for comfort. Loneliness gives her freedom, a rare, untouchable freedom most people never experience because they are addicted to validation and companionship. She doesn't just survive in isolation, she thrives. Every moment alone is a deliberate investment in herself, her goals, and her mental and emotional resilience. This ability also makes her dangerous in subtle ways. People who rely on others for energy, reassurance, or guidance cannot predict or control her. She cannot be manipulated through guilt, fear, or social expectation because she has already mastered herself. Her independence is absolute, and it radiates in every action, word, and silence. Loneliness has become her armor, and her comfort in solitude becomes a mirror for others. They see strength where they see emptiness, independence where they see detachment, clarity where they see coldness. Moreover, she doesn't just accept solitude, she transforms it into insight. Being alone allows her to study people, situations, and systems without distraction. It fuels creativity, foresight, and emotional intelligence. She emerges from solitude not weakened, but sharper, more aware, and far more prepared than anyone tethered to the constant noise of the herd. Her relationship with loneliness flips the script of human expectation. Where others see isolation as a void, she sees opportunity, power, and perspective. By weaponizing it, she turns what society fears into her greatest advantage, making her untouchable, enigmatic, and perpetually ahead of the world around her. Loneliness is not a gap in her life. It is the foundation of her strength. Number 9. She lives outside the timeline of others. A Sigma female moves through life at her own rhythm, entirely untethered from the schedules, urgencies, and pressures that drive the majority. While people rush, panic, and react to deadlines, trends, or social expectations, she operates on a different cadence. Her decisions, movements, and thoughts are not dictated by the herd, but by her own sense of timing, clarity, and internal logic. This detachment from the collective timeline makes her appear enigmatic, unshakable, and, to some, almost untouchable. Her independence from conventional pacing doesn't come from laziness or carelessness, it comes from awareness. She observes the frantic motion of others, sees where it leads, and chooses a slower, more deliberate path. She doesn't need to follow trends or match the pace of social expectation because she understands that real results, emotional, intellectual, and strategic, are rarely achieved by haste. By living on her own timeline, she gains a perspective and foresight unavailable to those trapped in constant motion. This difference in pace also isolates her. People are constantly trying to pull her into their rhythm, whether through urgency, gossip, or pressure, but she remains a step ahead or a step aside. She watches outcomes unfold with patience, seeing patterns and consequences before others even recognize them. Her detachment isn't disengagement, it's superior awareness. She doesn't react because she has already anticipated, calculated, and decided. Her unique timing gives her a quiet power. Decisions made in her own time carry precision and authority. Actions taken on her own schedule have far more impact than those dictated by the herd. Social chaos doesn't sway her. Collective panic doesn't distract her. She moves through the world with a calm that feels unnatural to others, yet perfectly natural to her. This separation from the ordinary flow of life ensures she remains a ghost in the eyes of most. She is physically present, but mentally unbound from the shared timeline, always operating on a frequency of foresight, patience, and control. Living outside the timeline of others is not an accident for her. It is a conscious strategy that makes her rare, untouchable, and extraordinarily powerful. Number 10. She avoids crowds because they distort truth. A Sigma female has an uncanny ability to see through chaos, and crowds are the ultimate distortion field. She avoids them not because she fears people, but because she understands how easily group dynamics warp reality. In crowds, opinions become amplified, emotions exaggerated, and truths diluted. Collective behavior creates pressure to conform, to follow, to react in ways that rarely align with clarity or honesty. She refuses to let her perception be compromised by the noise of the herd. In a crowd, individuality is swallowed. Nuance is lost. Decisions are driven by panic, trend, or fear rather than thoughtfulness. A Sigma female sees the patterns and consequences that others cannot, and she knows the price of participation in these distorted environments. The louder the crowd, the less reliable the information. The more people seek validation from one another, the more the truth bends under expectation. She doesn't need validation, so she doesn't need the crowd. She watches from the edges, quietly, invisibly, analyzing the distortions without getting pulled into them. Her avoidance of crowds also preserves her energy. People who are emotionally reactive, overly dramatic, or dependent on social chaos cannot penetrate her focus. She protects her mind from the endless noise, the distraction, and the artificial rhythms of collective emotion. Solitude isn't a limitation, it's a shield, a way to maintain clarity, strength, and control over her own life. This separation makes her seem untouchable. People in crowds may notice her, wonder about her, or try to involve her, but she moves with calm precision. She doesn't need to participate to exist, and her absence in social chaos becomes as powerful as her presence in moments of quiet authority. Ultimately, avoiding crowds allows her to navigate the world with accuracy and insight that others cannot achieve. She preserves her perception of truth, sees patterns unnoticed by those immersed in the noise, and maintains control over her environment. In rejecting the distortions of collective behavior, she creates a space where reality remains hers alone, clear, sharp, and uncompromised. It is this commitment to truth over conformity that makes her ghost-like, enigmatic, and impossible to fully understand. Number 11. She exists between worlds, emotional and analytical. A Sigma female lives in a space where most people can't follow, existing simultaneously in emotional depth and analytical clarity. She feels the world intensely, registering undercurrents of emotion that others overlook, yet she processes it with a mind that calculates, anticipates, and interprets with precision. This duality separates her from everyone else, creating a presence that is both magnetic and unsettling. People sense her depth, but rarely understand it, because she inhabits two realms at once, never fully belonging to either. Her emotional intelligence allows her to sense fear, desire, insecurity, and motivation before it's even expressed. She absorbs moods like a sponge, reading the hidden tensions in rooms, the unspoken truths between people, and the subtle signals others send unconsciously. At the same time, her analytical mind breaks these observations down, interprets them, and predicts outcomes with accuracy that borders on foresight. She doesn't react impulsively to what she feels. She integrates it, calculating the best response or strategy while remaining emotionally aware. This existence between worlds gives her an almost paradoxical power. She can be compassionate without being manipulated, engaged without losing control, and present without becoming entangled. Most people live in one world or the other, either driven by raw emotion or by logic, and struggle to balance both. She naturally inhabits the intersection, giving her a perspective that feels unnatural, untouchable, and almost ghost-like. People are drawn to her, unsettled by her presence, and often unsure if she is closer to understanding or analyzing them at any given moment. Her dual nature also isolates her. Most conversations and interactions operate in only one dimension. She sees the layers beneath or beyond the obvious, and because of that, connecting on a superficial level feels hollow or unfulfilling. She can engage deeply, but only with those who can navigate her complexity. Living between emotional and analytical worlds is both her strength and her solitude. It allows her to navigate life with unmatched awareness and precision, while ensuring that only a few can truly resonate with her. This duality makes her rare, enigmatic, and profoundly untouchable, a presence felt fully but rarely understood completely. Number 12. She leaves emotional echoes instead of footprints. A Sigma female doesn't leave traces in the conventional sense. She doesn't rely on constant interaction, social validation, or superficial connection to mark her presence. Instead, she leaves echoes, subtle, lingering impressions that ripple long after she's gone. People may forget her words, overlook her gestures, or misinterpret her silence, but they rarely forget how she made them feel. That emotional resonance is her signature, quiet yet profound, and it often hits unexpectedly, like a thought that lingers after a conversation has ended. These echoes are the result of her intensity. She doesn't operate on surface-level interaction. She engages with intention, thought, and depth. Even brief encounters carry weight because she registers more than most people realize, notices subtleties others miss, and communicates not just with words but with presence. Her laughter, her silence, her glance, all convey layers of meaning that the average person isn't equipped to unpack immediately. The impact isn't always obvious, but it accumulates, subtle and unstoppable, long after she has stepped away. Because she operates in this way, people often experience her as a paradox. She can be in a room and seem distant or invisible, yet weeks or months later, they feel her influence in decisions, memories, or emotions. That echo is not deliberate manipulation. It is the natural effect of someone whose perception and presence are profound enough to resonate beyond the immediate moment. She doesn't need constant reinforcement to make an impression. Her energy, awareness, and subtle influence do it for her. This ability also reinforces her ghost-like nature. People sense her, feel her impact, and are affected by her depth, yet cannot fully grasp or contain it. She exists beyond the ordinary dynamics of interaction, leaving a mark that is intangible yet undeniable. Her presence doesn't fade in the traditional sense. It reverberates, shaping thoughts, stirring feelings, and leaving a lasting emotional trace that is both captivating and impossible to fully articulate. A Sigma female leaves the world changed quietly. She doesn't chase recognition, and she doesn't insist on being remembered. Yet her emotional echoes ensure that her influence lingers, making her unforgettable in a way that footprints never could. The truth about Sigma females is brutal, unfiltered, and undeniable. They don't exist in the world the way most people do. They drift between emotional and analytical planes, move outside the timelines of others, and navigate life on their own terms. They don't chase acceptance, don't rely on others, and avoid the distortions of crowds, yet their presence, when it's felt, leaves a resonance that can't be ignored. They are quiet forces of clarity and power, living between layers of perception, constantly observing, calculating, and understanding the world in ways few can comprehend. To the outside observer, they may seem distant, ghost-like, or even untouchable. But this is not emptiness. It's precision, depth, and intentionality. Their loyalty is rare, their silence strategic, and their independence absolute. They don't need the herd, the spotlight, or validation. They create impact quietly, leaving emotional echoes that linger far longer than footprints ever could. Every interaction, every choice, and every absence carries weight, whether the world recognizes it immediately or not. Understanding a Sigma female is not about decoding a personality or fitting her into a social mold. It's about acknowledging that she operates on a frequency the majority can't access, a frequency that blends insight, emotional depth, independence, and self-possession into a presence both magnetic and untouchable. She isn't trying to be mysterious or hard to reach. She simply exists fully in her own truth, and the world around her adjusts whether it wants to or not. The brutal reality is that most will never truly understand her, but those who do will recognize a force of nature, a mind and spirit operating beyond conventional boundaries. She leaves a mark that is subtle, powerful, and unforgettable, a quiet revolution in every room she inhabits and in every life she touches. If this resonates with you, and you want to dive deeper into understanding the rare minds and untouchable spirits of Sigma females, make sure to subscribe to the channel. hit that like button, leave a comment sharing your thoughts, and share this video with anyone who needs to understand the truth behind the ghost-like power of these extraordinary women.